For 27 years, he lived among them. A friendly wave in the mornings, a warm smile at neighborhood cookouts. He walked his dog at the same time every day, paid his taxes, remembered birthdays, and offered to help carry groceries for the older residents on the block. To everyone who knew him, he was the definition of ordinary, the kind of man people trusted without thinking twice, the kind of man you'd never feel the need to question. But that changed the day the FBI stepped into his basement and unlocked a door no one in his life had ever asked about. Inside that room, they didn't find a storage closet. They didn't find tools or old boxes or holiday decorations. What they uncovered was something that froze every agent in place because it didn't match the life this man had shown the world, not even close. Neighbors who once called him the nicest man on the street couldn't understand it. Co-workers who said he never raised his voice refused to believe it. His family, those closest to him, were left wondering how a man they shared their lives with could hide something so extreme. But he did hide it. For 27 years, without slipping, without anyone noticing. And now comes the question that still unsettles everyone who hears this case. How did he manage to act completely normal for almost 3 decades while living a double life no one suspected? How did he build friendships, relationships, even a reputation for kindness, while keeping a secret he guarded more tightly than anything else? And if he hid this for so long, what else was he planning that never came to light? Because according to investigators, the room they opened in his basement wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Before the discovery in his basement ever made headlines, he was simply the boy who grew up on Maple Ridge Lane. He wasn't loud. He wasn't the center of attention. He blended into the background almost effortlessly, like someone who learned early on how to occupy a room without drawing any focus to himself. His teachers described him as polite, helpful, always on time, always prepared. He moved on to college, chose accounting, a field built on order, structure, numbers that stayed where you put them. Eventually, he returned home, bought a modest house on a quiet street, and settled into the kind of steady routine most people envy. Every weekday morning, he jogged the same route, same street, same time, same careful rhythm to every step. He paid his bills weeks ahead of time. He kept his lawn perfectly trimmed. His trash cans were always lined up precisely at the curb. At neighborhood barbecues, he was the man who brought extra napkins and offered to help set up chairs. At charity events, he donated quietly, never seeking recognition. He remembered birthdays. He waved at passing cars. He held doors open for strangers. To everyone around him, he seemed perfectly ordinary, the kind of neighbor people point to when describing a stable, peaceful life. But there was one thing, one detail people brushed off as unimportant, even though they noticed it. The locked door in his basement. Always locked, never open, not even an inch. Some neighbors joked about it, the way people tease lightly to hide their curiosity. Probably where he keeps all his old junk, they'd say. But no one ever saw inside. Not his friends, not his family, and certainly not the people who trusted him most. There was also his habit of watching people when he thought they weren't looking. Never long, just a few seconds more than felt natural. Little things like that, tiny forgettable moments, tend to disappear into the noise of everyday life. And then there was the missing girl from years earlier, someone he had been loosely connected to before moving away for college. It was a story the town spoke about for a while, then slowly let fade, like most stories do. Individually, none of these things felt alarming. Together, they formed the outline of someone far more complicated than the man people thought they knew. Because while the town went about its routines, School runs, grocery trips, weekend picnics. He stayed perfectly woven into their lives, never out of place, never questioned. Everyone believed they understood him. Except one person. Just one. Someone who noticed the details everyone else overlooked. Someone who sensed something off long before the truth emerged. Her suspicion, quiet, patient, and persistent, would become the first thread pulled from the fabric of his carefully constructed life. And that single doubt, that single question she refused to let go, is what eventually unraveled everything. For 27 years, his life looked steady, controlled, ordinary, until the night everything broke. It began with a disappearance. A young woman who lived only 3 houses away. Someone the neighborhood knew well, always jogging in the evenings, always smiling at the people she passed. On the night she vanished, she never finished her usual route. Her phone was found on the sidewalk, screen cracked, the flashlight still on. Hours later, at 1:17 a.m., a 911 call came in. The dispatcher could barely hear her. Her voice was shaking. She whispered, "I don't feel safe. He's watching me again." And then, silence. No scream, no struggle. Just a quiet click as the call ended. Police searched the area within minutes. They combed through alleys, yards, nearby parks. But she was gone. Completely. Neighbors gathered outside, confused and scared. They asked each other the same questions. Who would follow her? Who would hurt her? Did anyone see anything? A few people mentioned noticing a familiar car driving slowly earlier, a dark sedan that looked exactly like his. But no one wanted to believe it. He was the quiet neighbor, the helpful one, the one who hosted backyard cookouts. Still, officers decided to look around the places he usually visited. His running trail, his office parking lot, the grocery store where he always picked up the same items, bread, milk, and instant coffee. Then came the first blow the town couldn't ignore. A body was found at the edge of the woods near the running trail, covered by leaves, carefully placed, almost arranged. It wasn't the missing woman, but it was someone else, someone the police didn't expect. As officers tried to understand what happened, they pulled security footage from the trail entrance, hoping to find anything, any clue, any movement, any stranger passing by. Witnesses told police they'd seen him there that night. More than one person, all certain, all confident. But when detectives watched the footage, he wasn't there. Not once. Not in the background. Not walking past. Not driving by. He simply did not appear. And yet, just hours later, another witness reported seeing his license plate near the woods where the body had been found. Police checked the timestamp. The car passed exactly 34 minutes after the victim's estimated time of death. Still, something didn't add up. Why would so many people swear they saw him if the cameras showed nothing? Was he hiding? Was he waiting? Or had he simply learned how to move through his world without leaving footprints? This was the moment the town's idea of safety cracked. The moment they began to wonder what else he'd managed to keep hidden for 27 years. But the questions were only beginning, because the next discovery would change everything they thought they knew about him. Morning arrived gently over the neighborhood, but the calm did little to soothe the questions gathering in the detectives' minds. Their next steps would unfold door by door, person by person. Each conversation meant to peel back a layer, yet each one strangely leading them back to the same place. Neighbors were the first to speak. They leaned against door frames, sat on tidy couches, and repeated the same description with unwavering certainty. He seemed normal, they said. Helpful, friendly, courteous. Someone who waved at kids riding bicycles. Someone who mowed his lawn at the same time every Saturday. Someone who blended into the rhythm of the neighborhood so naturally that no one ever questioned his place in it. His work history offered the same harmony. No warnings, no complaints, no sudden job changes. A clean timeline, a stable record. Managers described him as reliable. Co-workers described him as polite. A man who never raised his voice. A man who never acted out of turn. Even his social media painted a flawless portrait. Curated smiles, harmless captions, family holidays, birthday posts, nothing out of place, nothing to bring suspicion to his doorstep. But beneath the framed moments of his life, something darker was lurking, something far more sinister. He had a way of using charm like a tool. He listened attentively, gave warm nods, matched the tone of whoever he spoke to. It wasn't kindness, it was calculation. There were moments that seemed harmless at the time, private conversations, lightly spoken comments, moments others remembered now with a tightness in their chest because they realized those words were never comforting. They were warnings cloaked in softness. Then came the financial anomalies, small amounts first, then larger ones, all hidden behind the kind of discretion only someone practiced could maintain. Money moving to places no one could immediately identify. Funds disappearing under the guise of routine expenses. And there were the people, friends from years ago, co-workers from old jobs, acquaintances from brief chapters of his life, who seemed to drift out of existence without farewell or explanation. At the time, their absences were brushed off as changes in life's direction. Looking back, they formed something far more chilling. A consultant was brought in to examine the patterns. Her conclusion was stark. Psychopaths don't feel guilt. They don't slip. They blend. Her words echoed through the room long after she finished speaking. For a moment, suspicion shifted elsewhere. A co-worker whose resentment seemed sharper than expected. Old disagreements resurfaced, painting him as someone with motive. But his timeline held firm. Then a family member drew attention. Their grief looked too controlled, their answers too measured. But their involvement unraveled quickly under scrutiny. One of the earlier victims contradicted their own statements. Details changed, memories shifted. Whether it was fear or confusion, nothing they said could be anchored firmly to the truth. With each turn, with every misleading lead, the detectives were pushed back toward him, toward the man everyone trusted, everyone overlooked, everyone they believed they understood. The breakthrough came when the decision was made to search his home, a place kept immaculate, routine, orderly, just like the man himself. Room after room revealed nothing unusual, no chaos, no disorder, nothing to hint at the truth lying just beyond reach. And then they reached it. A single room, locked, unlabeled, unremarkable at first glance. But no one, not even his wife, had ever seen what was inside. As the lock released, the silence in the hallway tightened, because whatever waited beyond that door was the first crack in the mask he had worn so perfectly. The door that no one had ever entered stood before them, ordinary in appearance, yet carrying a weight the rest of the home did not. The detectives paused, steadying themselves, knowing that once the door opened, Every assumption about the man they believed they knew would begin to fall away. When they stepped inside, the air felt heavier, as though the walls themselves had been holding their breath. Behind the door, hidden by a thin curtain and an unfinished wall panel, they found a second entrance, one leading downward. A basement no one had mentioned. A basement no one even knew existed. The first shelves revealed journals, dozens upon dozens, each one filled with small, meticulous handwriting. Not thoughts, not reflections, observations. Detailed notes about people he encountered, their gestures, their habits, the way their voices rose and fell, the fears they never admitted out loud. Page after page documenting human behavior with precision that made even the seasoned investigators shift uncomfortably. Next came the photographs, captured from a distance, framed through windows, grocery store aisles, parking lots. Faces that didn't belong in the same collection but had been gathered as if part of a study he never intended the world to see. On the far table, a set of recordings waited. Conversations clipped from everyday encounters, brief exchanges with coworkers, chats with strangers, moments preserved without the subjects ever knowing they had been watched so closely. And then came the evidence. Dates, addresses, connections stretching back years, links to disappearances scattered across different locations, far enough apart to avoid pattern recognition, but now unmistakably tied to him. Behind a staged, normal life he had shown everyone, something darker was lurking, something far more sinister. Beneath loose floor panels they found the device that held the rest of the truth. A small laptop, old but well kept. Its surface-level contents were harmless, but beneath those folders, behind layers of encryption, they found the messages. He had been communicating with someone, maybe with several people, their identities hidden, their replies cold and clipped. Some messages timing back years, some from only weeks ago. The digital trail didn't merely expose his actions, it expanded them. It stretched beyond anything the investigators initially suspected, and it carried implications none of them wanted to say out loud yet. When they finally confronted him, he didn't deny everything. He confessed, but only to one crime. His voice stayed even, controlled, almost rehearsed. He spoke clearly, offering details no one else could have known. But when pressed about the remaining evidence, about the other cases, he leaned back and answered simply, "That wasn't me." The problem was that the other crimes didn't resemble his methods. Different approaches, different planning, different motivations. For the first time, the investigators realized the unthinkable. They weren't just dealing with one perpetrator. He had been part of something larger, or someone had been following his work or learning from it. A long, heavy quiet settled over the table. A micro-silence, deliberate and suffocating. The answer came from the final journal, the most recent one. Its last page was written differently, as though he had saved the most disturbing truth for last. When investigators finished reading the final page of his journal, they realized he hadn't just been pretending to be normal, he had been practicing. When the investigation finally reached its end, there was a moment where the world seemed unchanged on the surface. The neighborhood remained quiet. The houses still lined the street in perfect rows. People continued with their routines as though nothing in their lives had shifted. But beneath that everyday rhythm, questions lingered. Quiet, heavy, impossible to escape. Psychopaths do not feel emotions the way others do. They study them. They mirror them. They adjust their tone, their posture, even their pauses just enough to fit into the world around them. Every smile he offered was borrowed. Every display of sympathy was rehearsed. Every warm gesture was constructed from observation rather than feeling. He didn't connect with the people in those photos. He didn't cherish those celebrations. He simply understood that appearing human is the easiest way to walk unnoticed through a crowd. Behind the life he presented, something darker was lurking, something far more sinister. People often expect danger to look a certain way, loud, chaotic, obvious. So when someone behaves politely, speaks softly, pays their bills on time, and keeps their yard neat, the mind rushes to acceptance. It is easier to trust the surface than to question the inconsistencies beneath it. The human brain is built to avoid discomfort. So when small warning signs appear, an odd comment, a strange reaction, a fleeting moment that doesn't quite add up, most people dismiss them. Not because they are unaware, but because acknowledging them forces a harder truth, that we never really know anyone as well as we think we do. Experts call it the mask of sanity, the practiced façade that allows individuals like him to move through the world undetected. It is not built overnight. It is shaped slowly, refined carefully, perfected through years of trial and error. And for 27 years, that mask never slipped. He wrote about people with the distance of someone studying a puzzle. He watched them closely enough to mimic their responses. He practiced long enough to blend in flawlessly. And because he blended, no one imagined he could be capable of anything else. Maybe the scariest part isn't what he did. It's how easily he fooled everyone.